Okay, I guess we are live now. Hi, everyone, and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today on this session of the Blockchain for Good Virtual Summit. Today is a really cool session because we will have the chance to share openly with everyone that is joining us online a little bit of what happened in Brussels a month ago already. So just to give you a little bit of context, what we were doing in Brussels, we have a closed roundtable with 30 experts coming from the sustainability space, the blockchain space, and the European institutions. This was an initiative that we started with Tommaso Stasi, who is also here, a couple of months, if more, like if not already like a long year, where we started to ask sustainability experts what were the main challenges that they were facing when trying to achieve some of the European sustainable goals, as well as the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Um, all of this information was collected by Tommaso and myself, and we put together a small paper that then we share with the blockchain ecosystem, and we ask them how they could help those experts to solve those issues with the use of blockchain. And we have really cool projects presenting their answers and telling us what they were doing to actually pushing societies a little bit further when it comes to the achievement of the sustainable development goals or the Green Deal or any of these amazing goals that we have right now that sometimes look so much in the nebulas of ideas and how they actually were like developing concrete ideas to push us forwards on that. So what we did in Brussels was bring together five of those projects and ask them to just give us an overview of what they were doing and then have a proper discussion on how we could support those projects to do what they do better and faster so we can have like global impact. So today we are going to have an overview of what happened in Brussels, but also we wanted to give you the chance to hear a little bit more from the perceptions of the European institutions on why is this important and why is so important to actually like land these ideas into the real economy, as well as to have a super quick overview of what the projects are doing. So let's start directly with that. So Joachim, will you give us the honor of doing the keynote, please?
Thank you so much, Mariana, and thank you to you and Tommaso for having prepared this project, but of course also for the stars of today, which are the speakers after me who present their projects. We had indeed a very interesting and important event in Brussels about a month ago. But before we go into the details, let me indeed briefly outline why we see this as important. For those that do not know me, I am principal economist in the unit responsible for the digital transformation of industry in DG CRO of the European Commission. We are responsible for what we call the real economy. And in this area, I am responsible for blockchain, crypto, and tokenization policymaking in the real economy for the European Union. Now, the European Commission has already declared for the European Union 10 years ago that we see blockchain as a very positive technology that for us is an innovation priority in all policy fields for the decades to come. Blockchain for us is at least at the same level as artificial intelligence or quantum computing or any other form of technology that we see in the digital domain. And the reason for that is that it's not just any technology, but it is, in our opinion, for society, a game-changing enabler for a lot of new projects in the real economy, but also the digital space. And the reason for that is that self-organization and work within communities that adhere to your own values that you as an individual choose, and you also as an individual choose with whom you would like to cooperate, has always been based on a trust-creating environment that outside the digital domain was only possible at local scale. And with blockchain, we now, for the first time in history, have a lever that enables us basically to scale the trust base that was from local interaction now to global interactions with communities that we choose as individuals. And this opens up what we now see as the move of the internet towards Web3, which is a value space. So in the longer term, we replace these traditional ideas of you have financial assets or you have real world assets or IP or whatever by the mere fact that you in your communities are creating values that relate to your preference systems, and you choose your preference systems. Sustainability is very important to many people, and therefore it had been clear from the outset that we would use also for this purpose blockchain very actively. Indeed, since this declaration 10 years ago, we have progressed on a lot of fronts. We have, for example, created an open source blockchain European public infrastructure, which we call the European Blockchain Services Infrastructure, on which we have already created more than 24 applications, mostly in the real world, for blockchain infrastructures. The most important one, perhaps our anti-counterfeiting blockchain infrastructure, with which we are able to detect fake products through sort of digital twin, where the digital twin goes on the journey with the physical product based on an NFT-based exchange of information to ensure the authenticity of the original product. You can imagine basically the same thing for any type of asset, whether that is energy, whether that is carbon certificates, whether that is any other form of document or indeed value that you put into a token as a digital form of a container, and which will then basically enable safe transactions globally within your community. And this is something where we are not only focusing on the creation of the infrastructure, we're not only focusing on the enabling of the use cases on top of that, but we're also very active on the services around that. Take two examples, standardization and digital skills. All of what I described now here requires a lot of simultaneous actions in different policy fields, which necessitate some coordination, some steer in this regard, but also a very good and meticulous cooperation with industry and in fact with every stakeholder in the local and regional communities out there. And I was very proud actually last month to see the quality of the contributions that we received in this discussion. We have a great number of startups, initiatives, projects in Europe, but of course also globally in these areas. I think that what I describe here as the interest of individuals to engage in communities that reflect their own values is a global phenomenon that unites us all. And therefore, I think also we should present good practices as an inspiration for those that intend to also move in this direction and that can already see what is existing and on what they can build. And therefore, I'm very happy now to listen to the outcome of the discussion actually that we had last month in Brussels in a condensed way. I think this is prototypical of many projects that we see, but today we have a collection of really path-breaking initiatives that every one of those is very much supported from our side, and we need that not only to progress on its own merit, but also to inspire many others. So I cut it short here for the moment. I think the scene is set, and I would like to give the floor back to Mariana and then hear the presentations of our esteemed speakers today to learn more about what they are doing. Thank you.
And I think that you make a great point as well of giving examples of what we can do with these technologies in the different areas. And this is actually why we selected these 4 projects on purpose, because it will showcase different areas in which blockchain can be implemented in a really different way from one another. So the idea was to showcase the variety of things we can do with these technologies. So we will have really great speakers today. So we have Gabriela from Ethics Hub, we will have Matt from Demia, we have Adri from IoT Netherlands, and we have Kirsten for Zumo. So let's start in alphabetic order by the company. So Gabriela, if you can unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the organizers. I'm Gabriela Chang, CSO and co-founder of Ethics Hub. I used to be head of department at the Secretary of Economic Development in Chiapas, in Mexico, and I was also an organic coffee producer. So the application of blockchain to solving the problem is related to a problem we knew long before start building the solution. Ethics Hub is a blockchain-based impact investment platform, and our core focus is to provide access to affordable credit and added value markets for small farmers, often excluded from traditional banking, and impact investment opportunities for people who want to make a difference while earning a return. Did you know that coffee is the king of agroforestry and one of the most traded commodities? And yet, 80% of its global production comes from 25 million micro farmers with an average of 2 hectares each, and they are too small to access so many services others take for granted. Most people believe this severe problem is already solved by microfinance, but the harsh reality is that a fifth of the world population are smallholder farmers producing 1/3 of the world's food and yet living in poverty because they are excluded from the traditional financial system. So EthiHub crowd lending platform enables that almost anyone in the world to support sustainable coffee production and export. Our mission is to improve the living standard of the smallholder farmers through their own productivity. So by leveraging on blockchain's ability to connect complementary economic regions, we've built a win-win ecosystem where all stakeholders benefit from interacting. Our goal is to transform the way agriculture is financed in emerging economies. We are already operating in 6 countries, and our platform has financed over $5 million with less than 3% default, totally covered by our innovative blended finance system. I invite you to take a look to our website, ethihub.com, and learn how can you become an impact investor. So in a nutshell, EthiHub empowers farmers, enables ethical investing, and leverages blockchain for real-world impact. It's finance for good, made simple. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabriela. That was super fast, and you can tell that my brain is still jet lagged because I put the E before the D, so that was not like really alphabetically. But thank you very much. And like from financial inclusion, we will move now to Matt and Demia.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure being in Brussels at the roundtable as well. I'm Matt Yarger, the founder and CEO of Demia. I started out doing cybersecurity and cyber operations at the NSA as part of the U.S. Army, helped stand up Cyber Command and transition into digital forensics. After about 10 years of working in that space, I moved into German nonprofits, working on the sustainability space, which is where I met Mariana. So I worked with the IOTA Foundation to build a lot of their peer-to-peer capabilities from the blockchain side, really focused on how do we use data to connect fragmented ecosystems and get rid of silos in impact projects and positive impact capabilities and leverage it for different kind of financial incentives. In that capacity, I started working with ECCC, Gold Standard, Google, Dell, Intel, Linux, and a bunch of others on the tech side, and building out what we now have at Demia, known as a Zero Trust Data Fabric. And so with Demia, we really focus on the carbon markets and how do we take the projects and the companies that are really striving to make a positive impact and help them prove that impact. So when we look at the market, we see there's a huge global shift going on right now. Climate action is not about pledges anymore. We're seeing a lot of organizations kind of unwind their pledges and figure out how to move towards action. And that's what we really believe. It's about proof. Regulators, investors, and buyers aren't asking what you're doing. They're asking, how can you prove it? The shift is really creating a lot of different winners and losers. So we're seeing the early adopters to technology really accelerate, and we're seeing the ones that aren't bringing a new technology and using the old ways of doing things really struggle to kind of get the traction they need to grow their projects and their scale and their impact. So winners are digitizing their environmental impact. Losers are really focused on spreadsheets, and they're stuck working in slow processes with auditors, and they're missing out on a lot of the opportunity to scale that impact. Demia's whole purpose is to help projects that are making that positive impact win. We're the trusted infrastructure for what we call the prove it economy. Our platform turns environmental data into verified monetizable assets fast. We combine our zero trust architectures and cybersecurity prowess with a lot of AI-powered automations, RAG-based systems, blockchain-backed verification. We bring auditors onto our platform so they can see the data in real time. So there's a lot of that data availability problem that we focus on. This reduces friction in the process, it cuts costs, and it unlocks value. So whether companies working in sustainable fuels, renewable energy, industrial decarbonization, we can help them certify, sell, and scale their impact with less effort and more upside. They're already doing the work. Demia is just here to make sure that it counts. And that's it.
Thank you, Matt. That was really fast. So like I'm proud to see that like everyone is just like getting even good at pitching the projects really, really quick and fast. Now, let's go with Adi.
Yeah, hello. My name is Adrie Wisman. I'm the founder of pbtoken.com. We developed programmable money to help companies, local governmental bodies, and organizations to distribute subsidies, grants, and budgets in a very secure, efficient way. This idea is not new. It was inspired by my grandmother. She had a wallet with compartments, right? She had clothing money, grocery money, rent money, holiday money, different kinds of monies in her wallet. And we brought that to the 21st century and connected that to sustainability. So we have an app on your phone which has different kinds of money with different purposes. And you go to a store, scan a QR code, and just pay with that money which you have in your wallet. Now, this could be many different kinds of money. Like I told you, for instance, money from the government to install solar panels, or money from the government to make your domestic housing more energy efficient, so you can only buy LED lighting or whatever with it. It's a very broad spectrum which you can do. We did projects where cities gave away money to buy rain water barrels, and lots of other things. So this is purpose-bound money, but you can do much more with it. It's money with rules inside. Money for all sake, also to make people healthier, from a health budget from a company for their employees. Now, the issuer defines who gets how much, where they can spend it, on what, and when. And they only pay for what was really used by the citizens with that wallet. And directly from the bank account from the city to the retailers that were selling the product or the service. And we do that in a very efficient way, lowering administrative burden, decreasing fraud and misuse, but also in a very eco-friendly way, because we use less energy than a bank transaction with our transactions. Right? So it is a very broad spectrum. Like I said, it can be used for sustainability, social inclusion, debt relief. We did a very large project here in Holland about energy poverty with people. Yeah, so programmable money is what we deliver as a possibility for companies and governments. As I would like to call it, money with purpose, or even better, money with a mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Adri. And now, last but not least, Kirsten.
Thank you, Mariana. I hadn't realized you were doing it alphabetical, and as I work for Zumo, clearly I was going to be last. So when I spoke at Brussels, actually I spoke a little bit about the projects that we're doing at Zumo, but actually I spoke more about the global sustainability disclosures landscape and how crypto is currently responding to that and some of the nuances there. So I thought I would just try and do the same in 3 minutes. And see how we got on. So just briefly, in terms of what we do at Zumo, we are a blockchain technology company. We work with financial institutions and enterprises that are getting into crypto. We provide the tech stack and on-off ramp for them to do that. But we have a solution that we've developed to allow our clients to measure the carbon footprint of their crypto activities, mitigate against that, and then prove that using the blockchain. So that's kind of the solution that we provide. But just looking more generally at the subjects that we spoke about in Brussels, we spoke about the fact that MiCA, the Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation, has come into force in Europe and has sustainability disclosure requirements alongside that. And there are some specifics about the crypto sector that make us quite different from other sectors that need to disclose sustainability information. Firstly, electricity is obviously a key input for us. Some blockchains run on consensus mechanisms that are particularly electricity intensive, proof of work. And also, we're a sector that's come to prominence around the time of the Paris Agreement. And so there's definitely very specific interest in us as a sector and in our carbon footprint. So the markets in crypto asset regulation came in, and it was kind of designed to address some of these issues. But there's some very clear things about it that make it different to other sustainability disclosure requirements. For example, it looks at the asset level, not the entity level. And it's very focused on quantitative data, not qualitative data that might help to describe that quantitative data. And it applies to all CASPs. So we spoke really about the global sustainability disclosure landscape and what some of the differences and nuances are there, and whether there's a possibility for sustainability disclosure requirements in crypto to coexist within these wider sustainability disclosure requirements, which we now have in place. Alongside that, there's a really clear and fast direction of travel with the development of sustainability guidance. So things like the Science-Based Targets Standard is being updated, the Greenhouse Gas Protocol is being updated. And these are the Bibles in terms of how we measure greenhouse gases globally and how we report and set targets for those. And so as part of the roundtable, I posed 3 key questions, and I'd like to pose the same questions again. How much of what's happening in the wider sustainability disclosures landscape will feed into crypto-specific requirements, given that the two are really quite different and have been set out differently? We've yet to see how much of that will happen. And how will we as a sector adopt new standards, such as the revised Greenhouse Gas Protocol and the Science-Based Targets Standard, and then produce our own sector-specific guidance and standards that show how we as a sector will respond to those and comply with them? And then lastly, as a young and fledgling industry, do we yet have the industry standardization forums and frameworks that will help us to facilitate this? So those were the key questions that I posed, and I will leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you, Kirsten, and definitely not easy questions. And to answer those, we will need like probably another roundtable longer than what we have right now. But I will actually like to recap a little bit just to everyone to just like get a sense of why we invited this project. So we went from financial inclusion and actually how to bring farmers into the resources that they will need to work the land, to produce, and to actually like have a sustainable economic activity via Ethics Hub. We have also Demia helping us to prevent greenwashing and creating the data trust for reporting and actually like making auditing process in the climate space faster, so we can understand what is it that is actually like going on and how to make it more sustainable, as well as economically viable for like the production of credits. Then we have Adri helping us to have like purpose-born money to generate incentive for actually like producing like certain kind of behaviors on population, like also helping us to push forward environmental goals at the local level. And then we have Kirsten with like really thorough questions on how the crypto space could become more sustainable, not only by looking at MiCAR, but also looking at the broader perspective of sustainability. So we integrate these both different but interrelated worlds. So as you can see, we have a lot of conversations about this in, I don't know how long it was, like 3 hours in Brussels. So we could go like more into detail of what these projects were doing and how we're doing it. But one of the things that we actually wanted to discuss with the projects is what were the main takeaways. So I'm gonna ask each of you to really quick in the same order that you present, or maybe we start with Kristen and we do it backwards, so it's not always Gabriela the first one. But if you can just like let us know a little bit what were the takeaways of the roundtable and why it's so important to keep this conversation between the industry, the regulator, the supervisor authorities, and sustainability experts.
Starting with me, did you say, Mariana?
Yes.
Thanks. So for me, I guess the key takeaway is the level of innovation, entrepreneurship, and really fast-paced development of solutions that are really required for the very complex sustainability issues that we face. So many of those can be solved or at least addressed by blockchain. and yet it is not particularly well understood by those who are not within the blockchain space. I believe that blockchain remains quite a kind of siloed sector, and those in it understand it well and those outside it don't, and yet we have so many of the solutions. So for me, it was really about seeing how many of these solutions are being developed every day in this space. I see more solutions that I wasn't aware of yesterday, and it's really about how we can bring those to the fore and really align those with the kind of policy direction to make sure that they have maximum impact.
Thank you. Adri, would you like to add?
For me, it's more or less in the same direction, right? I mean, in Brussels, we talked about what is needed to get more adoption. And since we have to deal with a lot of government, cities, municipalities, etc., there's a lot of prejudice, right? Government isn't very well known for their innovation thrift, so to speak. So they are a little bit on the risk averse side. We have to get a lot of explaining to do to get these people to understand the technology, and that what they see on the news is not what is really happening in the space. It's only some extreme cases. So yeah, that's one of the biggest things, and how to stimulate these new innovative projects, right? I think a big factor for lots of blockchain projects would be that the government would be launching customer, and instead of giving them just some subsidy or a grant, really start showing the public that if the government believes in blockchain, that they can also trust blockchain. So that was one of the big topics that for me in Brussels.
So we have innovation, then we have education and stimulation, actually like adoption from the government itself. Matt, do you have something else to add to that one?
Yeah, I think 2 points kind of stuck out to me. One was it's not about like speaking the same language or anything like that. It's about making sure we're using the same system. Look at this as all but a core tool. And so how do we just as like the end all be to actually address the problem, and then what else complements it? And there has to be a commercial model tied has to rely on that token. It's a combination of different kinds of economic models that need to interact with each other in the same system. So we're always so zoomed in on like blockchain is the best thing ever, but we need to zoom out a little bit and look at the whole system and how it interacts with other things and understand like what are the missing pieces and how do we ensure that our system and like our process from a very specific technology works across these different sectors, because sustainability isn't one thing. Climate, carbon, these kind of things aren't one thing. They touch, mobility, they touch smart cities, they touch all kinds of different sectors. And if you're not thinking about it holistically, then you miss a big piece of what you're really trying to do.
That's really important, the holistic perspective and the systemic issues behind. Gabriela, would you like to add something?
Yes, I think as much as we would like this to be already adopted and working, it's still a way to go. We are still in early stage. And I think being a pioneer, being an innovator, it's very lonely because you are the head of a spearhead. And it is at the same time a privilege and a challenge, because we don't have a common language. We have to develop it. We don't have a broadly adoption. We have to build it. And how do we build it? Well, how Matt is saying, by setting example, by building business models that work and that make others being attracted to it. Like, we have to set the example. That's the main role of the innovators. So others will follow. Others will see, oh, it is doable. It's doable. And if they are doing it with this, I can do it with other that. So I think setting example, it's something that will set a mark. And regarding regulation, I think we all agree also with that. Innovation is always ahead of regulation. Because once the business models are built, then there's something to be regulated. But at the beginning, it's just like an experiment. We are not anymore in the experiment phase. I think we are in the building phase. Many of our projects are already working and producing results, but I think we are still in the early stage, and more examples needs to be set for people to follow. And if the institutions can support the projects that are already working, that would be a way to speed the adoption of it, but there's still a lot to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriela. And then Joachim, maybe you can contribute also, like what were your main takeaways?
I think these 4 examples speak for themselves, and every example has raised a number of key insights, I would say, that we fully support, certainly as also the role of the public side, which in my opinion should be an enabler. We should primarily listen to you and learn from you on what is possible and what can then be the deliverables for citizens and also for companies, especially small and medium-sized companies, but also cooperatives, DAOs, whatever is out there. And that on the one hand side is very inspiring. On the other hand side, we must not be naive, because indeed, as we've just heard, we are beyond the theory, we are beyond the talk. Matt, you said something very important. We need to prove that we deliver on the ground. We need to see, not only talk. And also, Gabriela and the other examples are very inspiring in terms of what they can deliver, but we are not meeting a friendly environment. We are first of all meeting an environment where there's a lot of vested interests. We are also meeting an environment where people fail to see how simple blockchain actually is as a technology, but focus, perhaps rightly so, I don't know, on certain technical things which are complicated also for experts, but which get us distracted from the main message. If you really see, as I do, that blockchain is a revolution, that it is an enabler for social inclusion, for democratization, for people really finally coming up to what their preferences are, for helping those that are poorer or in a less advantageous situation at those that are the friends of the big tech and the vested interests, then you see what massive challenge we are facing. And this challenge can only be met if we really produce benefits that can be very small benefits. It needn't be directly related to blockchain. People don't have to, as consumers, necessarily understand the details of the blockchain, but we should have as the storyline that this is what we can give to you to enable you to do what you want further. And by the way, it is related to blockchain, so this is the only technology that can basically work. And this is a tedious, this is a time-consuming, this is a long-term effort, but the fact that we don't see the final result yet doesn't mean that we are not progressing. We are massively progressing. I'm an economic historian. We have never seen a technology throughout history that now, mere 17 years after its basic breakthrough. I mean, we all know that there's been a lot of things before that, but starting with the Bitcoin white paper and where we've come to, we have an amazing journey ahead of us, which shows the potential. But the biggest strengths of what we can have from our different starting points as a community is cooperation, is collaboration, is exchange of best practices, is basically also convincing each other again and again that we are doing the right thing, that we are delivering, and not primarily consider us, and now I don't want to sound too naive, as competitors. Of course, many of us are in a way competitors, but the cake that we are creating is growing swiftly, and it is much bigger the more we cooperate. There is a place for all of us to get there. And this is something that we have to reconsider. We are all on the same side. We have the future ahead of us because the young generation is buying in. The old generation will die, stupid as they are. And that means that we will get there, but it takes a little bit of an effort and a little bit of patience.
Thank you, Joachim. I love some of the latest comments. Okay, so I want to make one more question to each of you, and it's actually, what do you need right now? What do you need, whether it is from the institutions or the investors or the public, to actually grow your projects and receive the support that you need? So let's start in a different order. So Adri, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, what we need is customers, right? We have to focus on other things than blockchain, because I think that that's one of the mistakes the industry makes, focusing on the technology instead of on the use. People buy cars, not engines. So we need people, cities, governments who buy cars and show that it is trustworthy, and then the rest will follow. So yeah, customers.
Um, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, we can.
Matt, do you want to go next?
Okay. I think so. I'm not struggling on the customer side. That's a good thing for us, but it takes time. Like a lot of the contracts that we're working on are enterprise. They're very slow. It's not an easy, like you sign up and we move forward type of thing. They can take months, sometimes years, to get some of the large scale like licensing deals and everything done. So there's a lot of demand from the market. But what we're seeing right now, especially with the uncertainty from tariffs and administrative policies and everything else, is the early stage investors are really scared to put money out into the projects that are going to make an impact. And projects like us, all of us here, I'm sure, need those early stage investors to kind of put their money where their mouth is and say, hey, we believe in what you're doing. We believe this market's going to continue to live. And we think you're going to have a big opportunity to lead it, which they say, but their actions don't kind of follow up and actually prove that. And so the early stage investors can't be afraid to kind of put that money into the organizations and keep pushing forward, because this time of uncertainty, it's 2 to 3 years, and then it's going to be behind us and we're going to move forward as usual. And there's still a lot of opportunity that's coming from it. The winners come from the moments of the biggest uncertainty. And we're seeing a huge influx of opportunities with nature-based solutions and industrial decarbonization, and wanting to prove their impact, wanting to utilize new technologies like blockchain and AI and everything to like really put that transparency out there. But the angel, the pre-seed, like these kind of earlier stage investors are really cautious right now, and they're not committing to the projects. And it's going to end up causing a lot of the best technologies and solutions to die on the vine before they can really reach their point of ripeness.
Thank you, Matt. Kirsten, do you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you. And so I guess I'll answer this in relation to our Zumo oxygen solution, which, as I said before, allows us to kind of measure the carbon emissions associated with crypto activity and then mitigate and improve that. So in terms of what I believe we need, we work with financial institutions, among others, and we always have a bit of a paradox between the crypto and blockchain sector, between being quite innovative, entrepreneurial, fast-moving, risk-taking, and financial institutions being very risk-averse, very slow-moving, very traditional. Now, we bridge that gap, which is why when I spoke about the guidance and standards, because when you're a financial institution, you want to be following those to the T. When you're in a young and emerging sector, you might, play around a little bit with how you can have more impact rather than be guidance to the letter. So my ask is, and I'm answering my own questions here, because if you remember, I posed 3 questions. I don't believe that we currently have the standard setting bodies, institutions, and forums to be talking sensibly to the global standard setters and guidance writers that we need to be talking to as a sector. And I believe that at the moment, as a sector, we're trying to forge our own path. Now, that happens across other sectors too, but because we're quite new, we don't necessarily have those go-to, very well established, very well respected bodies that will be developing this for us as a sector. So I think that will come. We're in a state of maturation. We're really getting to that point. But my ask would be that I believe that as a sector, we need alignment with what's happening globally on sustainability disclosure requirements. And yeah, let's do it. Let's take it as a call to action. There's lots of us in the sector that are really passionate and know a lot about it. And we have specifics within our sector that have never been seen before. Proof of work as a concept means that miners that are mining Bitcoin, their electricity consumption, they do not have autonomy over because it depends on others in the network. Now, that doesn't happen in any other sector. So we need to address that in a way that we can follow the kind of global guidelines that we need to follow in a way that fits us as a sector. And that is my ask.
That's a big ask. But thank you. Last but not least, Gabriela.
Well, my ask would be, this is kind of the fish that bites its tail, because we have users, we have early adopters that are doing what we have achieved here. Is what it was because of retail investors. We count with the support of some institutions at the Inter-American Bank for Development, Hafer International, and now Bybit. But we see EthiHub as that tool that development agencies are looking for to drill the barrier that separates us from the unbanked, the base of the pyramid. And I think we built that tool. So in order to achieve massively of our goal of solving so many SDGs, I think we would love to have more institutional support and connections, not just funding, but connections, because we want to reach to those farmers that they are trying to help in a different model that has not been sustainable enough as to solve the problem. So I would invite them to try us, because we have built a lot of legitimacy. We have a lot of metrics, but within the impact investing space, we are very well known, but they said, once you grow, so it's like, we need to grow to get their support, but we need their support to grow faster, because the problem is there. The problem is not sustaining a startup. We are doing good enough, but the problem is all these unbanked people suffering every day, and this is urgent to solve this problem. And I think by connecting, by doing these synergies, it is possible to do it as fast as possible, because the clock is ticking, and agriculture is one of the keys for climate change, and we are against the clock into that. So think about it. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's not only like key for like climate change, it's like basically no agriculture, no food, no nothing. It's as simple as that. So I think that you are like actually in one of those key areas. So just to summarize, what the projects need is clients, which it goes in both directions for Ari and Gabriela, which I think that like what we are calling like bravery as well for these institutions and traditional institutions in the development sector or at the government level to use the tools that we already have in place and try it out and see how good they work. We also need support at the investment level to projects in earlier stage, yet really powerful, because we have the use cases, we have the users, we have already the engagement. We just need the early support in cases like Demia to actually like push forward so we can show the impact that it can be. And I think Kirsten did like they asked that like everyone in the blockchain space is asking not only for sustainability, but it's more global alignment and standardization so we can push forward in the same direction. It is not easy, but that's the reason that we are all of us here trying to create awareness and get together to work in what we need. That's why we are also super grateful with the support of Joachim and the Commission, giving us the space and actually like hearing what we need to say and trying to understand how they can help us to make this work better, which is basically what we are trying to do all of us with these different projects. Now, Tommaso, you have been quietly there, which is really weird on you. So I actually like want to give you a couple of minutes to introduce yourself, and also like if you have collected questions from the audience, to just like please feel free to make them out loud.
Sure, very happy to do so. I mean, I was in the background because in the end, we should give the speakers the visibility that they need and they deserve, considering the great presentations that they had. Again, I'll keep it brief on my side, but my name is Tommaso Stazzi. I'm the policy director at Blockchain for Europe, Brussels-based association representing the blockchain industry. And as Mariana mentioned at the beginning, we have been working together, cooperating on a lot of these questions and issues for the past even more than a year. I think the first time we wrote together an article about blockchain for sustainability was more than a year ago, if not two. And that's really where I think our interest for how can this technology be used for the sustainability agenda of the EU and wider really form, right? So very happy to be still part and supporting this initiative. And I think today, the presentations today were really, really interesting again. I mean, I was privileged enough to listen to them already in the European Commission when we met in Brussels, but I also saw that some of our audience members are quite interested and they wanted to ask our speakers a few more questions. So let's have a look at the Q&A section, and just for everyone else who's still with us, feel free to add your questions last minute now. There is only a couple of them, so we can maybe touch upon a few more. So I think the first one, we probably touched upon a few of these, but our here anonymous attendee wants to know what are the biggest challenges as innovators and how you have or will you overcome them. And they're also putting an important emphasis on the current geopolitical situation and how the status quo needs to be challenged, right? So if anybody has any views on that or thoughts on how are you, in the one end, what are the biggest challenges for you as innovators, also thinking about the geopolitical considerations? Does anyone wants to share a few thoughts about that?
Well, I can talk about the challenges. For instance, we have purpose-bound money, right? And purpose-bound money is something new for central banks. And we've been in the EU blockchain regulatory sandbox for the last 6 months, talking to central banks and regulators. And I was very positively met by people working for these regulators who were very eager to learn and very open and forward thinking about it. So that's how we cope with them. I mean, we are contacting all these regulators and central banks, etc., to show them how it works and to get them on board. And like I said, they are very open-minded about it. You could expect that institutions who have the monopoly on money would not be very eager to cooperate, but they are. So it's very positive.
Thank you, Adri. I think that's actually a very interesting point, right? As we are looking now at all of these discussions around the world around sovereignty, monetary sovereignty, what does it mean to, store value, and what is our relationship with money and currencies and trade? I think it's a very interesting aspect indeed, and surprising sometimes that the financial institutions and other type of authorities might have this open approach, but it's very, very a positive thing to hear from you. I don't know if anybody wants to share any other challenges that they're facing. Gabriela?
I would add not on the challenges, because I already said them. No, we are in our early stage. We have to keep building to overcome the challenges with our building trust with something that people is not familiar with. One of the positive things is that we don't need to talk anymore about the technology, because now it's taken for granted. I always use the example of WhatsApp. We don't need to explain people how WhatsApp works, but what can you do with WhatsApp? It's the same with blockchain now, fortunately. So I think that's just about time to happen. But it was on the other side of the question regarding the geopoliticals. I was thinking recently, I was in a conversation with people from development entities here in Spain, and we were talking about the huge opportunity that comes now for Europe, Spain, with Latin America, with this all recession from the support that used to be given for the United States, especially all the USAID aids that were cut from zero. And so this leadership is being empty now. So I think it's a good time to take it. I understand it's huge, it's millions, but it doesn't mean to be fully covered by the new leader, but it is the opportunity for a new impact leader to step up and take this place. I think we should see this as a challenge, but also as a huge opportunity.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Or
I think that's
we can have
a
a lot
very
of
great
community
way.
leaders.
Indeed. Thanks so much. And I
Sadly,
think we could
that
go on
we just got a
talking for
message.
hours about these great questions and great challenges and great projects. I think there was another interesting question in the chat on what did you find interesting from each other, because I think this was also useful for all of you to listen from other innovators in the space. Maybe you learned something. I don't know if anybody has a one-sentence answer to this question that we had in the Q&A, something that you bring home from the others' presentations that you might implement in your own project.
I learned something from Matt because Matt doesn't use the word blockchain. Matt uses the word fabric, and I think that's a very wise lesson to revolutionize your language to make it more acceptable. So yeah, I learned something.
There you go. Glad to hear.
Okay, then I think that we're gonna close it. Like as Tomás said, like we can stay like speaking for hours. Maybe we organize another roundtable. If you want to stay engaged, I share the contact with everyone and on LinkedIn, and also like the websites for you to check it out, the projects, as well as the LinkedIn of Tomás or myself. In case that you want to stay engaged, just ping us and we will just send you more information about what we are doing. For the rest, thank you very much to everyone that was here speaking and sharing the projects. Joachim, for your time, and also for all the support that we have been receiving on your side. Also for the friends of Blockchain for Good Alliance and Millie and Rosalie for organizing as well, and the whole team that has been coordinating the whole event. Thank you for inviting us, and I guess we will see you in the next roundtable. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Thanks.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Bye bye.